Okay, so the first thing was getting, of course, converted to Uninet. And the second piece was Uninet has a really great end of the month checklist that's available in the Knowledge Center. And I am a huge proponent of the Knowledge Center. That is always my first question to staff. Well, have you looked it up in the Knowledge Center yet before you come to me for the answer? So I see this as the end all be all of checklists, because this is kind of where you start with that, hey, I'm new to using Uninet financials. Where do I start with my month end close? And using this particular list will get you there. Now, I don't use this list anymore because we now use our own version of this list, because I don't necessarily like to close little pieces at a time. I prefer to do everything and then close the whole month. But in the Uninet month-end close list, it tells you want to verify that all of your project financial postings are completed, meaning have all of your expense report costs been posted? Are all of your labor costs posted? Then that moves you right into financial transactions. Financial transactions being sorry, I don't know what happened there. Being vendor invoices and vendor payments and customer payments. So this is kind of, we start basically at the AP version and then work our way backwards into expense reports, just because we typically have people who travel at the end of the month and we have to wait a day or two on them. But vendor invoices for us are a huge deal because we're a service organization. So we have to make sure that all of the vendor invoices especially are captured for fixed price projects so that we can properly record EAC revenue on fixed price projects. So you want to, and these are, I mean, all of this is set up very simply by Uninet. Verify it, make sure your deposits are posted, make sure your journal entries are posted. Reconciling your open AP to the general ledger literally is just as easy as I run an AP aging and I look at my account balance. And if they balance, woohoo, we are ready to go. If they don't, then you have to go back and dig through and say, hey, what hit here? 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a journal entry that threw it out because it's not going to show up on your open AP aging. Perform a bank reconciliation. We actually don't do a reconciliation directly in Uninet during the close process. We actually wait. We do that after the fact, but we do a quick and dirty reconciliation during the close process. We verify the payroll summary report reconciles to the labor cost report. Very important. If your payroll summary doesn't reconcile to your labor cost report, then you may have paid somebody incorrectly, or you may not have dilution turned on correctly, which is also a big one. You have to reconcile your accrued leave to your general ledger, because Unit's not going to post your PTO time for you, or your vacation time, or sick leave time, or whatever it is that your company calls it. So you're going to have to make that journal entry, and then you're going to make sure after you make that journal entry that your accrued leave account reconcile to your accrued leave report. You want to, then you can close the Uninet says go ahead and close the GL fiscal period close sections of vendor invoicing, vendor payments, customer payments, and deposits at this point. Then run your cost pool calculation. Then you can close your cost pool calculation. Everything is very logical in that you're going to perform everything in chunks that go with each thing that you're doing. Verifying your billing and revenue post is completed. Super simple. Run your revenue post as if you were trying to run an invoice post, and if it's empty, you caught it all. Reconcile your unbilled and deferred revenue to your balance sheet. We do that every month as well. Also, reconciling your revenue to your income statement. So, meaning reconciling the revenue that's found on your JSRs to the revenue that's in your income statement. Big deal, should always balance. If you don't balance, likely there is once again a journal entry that you made for accruing some revenue that's not directly reflecting on your project, so therefore it's not captured in your JSR. You can reconcile your open AR to your GL the same way you do your AP. As long as everything's there and you don't have anything out of the ordinary, such as a journal entry, the two will balance. You can then close your billing and revenue, your expense report cost posting, your invoicing, and your labor cost posting. You can now generate financial statements and analyze your financial statements for unusual items. And you say, well, what are unusual items? Okay, for me, that would be, oh, let's see, I have this huge materials purchase amount in cost, but I don't have any revenue for that. So what's going on with that? Is that in the wrong period? Or, look, I have subcontract labor on a JSR on a contract that we didn't have subcontractors for. So somebody's obviously recorded something incorrectly, and you need to look at those. At that point, you can then close the remainder of the GL fiscal period closing unit. This is what we did for the first few months. We literally followed it by the book. However, we got to deciding, well, where were we and where do we want to be? So before we even went to Uninet, we were on GCS. So we had limited reporting. We had a close cycle that was approximately 20 days, and reports weren't generated before 28 days. So essentially, management was 58 days out of having good information at any given point in time. We had to keep a copy of our prior month database in order to reproduce a moment in time report. However, we overwrote that database every month, so we didn't have any historical reporting except for year-end. We didn't have real-time visibility to reporting, and running the rates in GCS was complex and time-consuming. It took us an hour and 15 minutes to run our rate calculations in GCS because there were so many different pools that we had to run. Now, with Uninet, we get multiple reporting with additional reporting capabilities, and we've worked with enterprise engineering to even make that even better. We get our close cycle now takes us approximately 5 days, and we do that with accruals because inevitably you've got somebody who didn't send their invoice in time. And our billing now only takes 3 days, and reports can get generated for the executive team by day 15, which is a huge change from day 28. We get moment in time reporting. We are able to do meetings with our operations team on a regular basis during the month to see where their projects are, something we couldn't do with GCS. And we can view project activity in real time, and we run the rates is literally the click of a button now. So how did we get there? Well, this is it. Our month-end close at IIA. The magic way we did it. Work day one. Making sure that all of those things that Uninet says in their close list have all been recorded. Expense reports, vendor invoices, vendor payments, customer payments, deposits, journal entries, and literally it's as simple as going in as if you are going to look one up, tell it to run it by post date with a submitted status. Don't choose posted status, just submitted, and hit list. If the list comes back blank, you have nothing hanging in queue for posting, and you move right on. We reconcile the open AP to the general ledger and perform the dirty version of the bank rec, all on day one. Now, just so we put that in perspective, on day one, we're also starting to deal with timesheets because we do our timesheets semi-monthly. So we have another group in the accounting department that's working on labor costing because we have to get our timesheets in. So, but by work day two, all timesheets have been submitted, approved, extracted, sent to our payroll provider, and are ready for labor cost post. And they can ensure that any corrections that were done during the month are also posted at this time. We also at that point verify the payroll summary report to the labor cost post, and we reconcile it to the JSR labor cost as well. We start creating our customer billings at this point. We can post our EAC revenue and our fixed price billings. I will tell you, we do not use the Uninet EAC to post our EAC revenue, and that is because we calculate it a little differently than what the system does, and so we actually calculate it off on a spreadsheet, and we manually go in and post to a different schedule for revenue purposes than we do for invoicing purposes. So ours is a little different. We review our project postings to post any necessary accruals. This is where I was saying that we always have that one fixed price subcontractor that's going to take a little longer to get his invoice in than maybe we would like. And we reconcile the following accounts: our AP clearing account, our accrued expense account, our employee receivables, and our travel advance. On workday 3, we have a very specific deliverable report that has to be run for a very specific contract. This could be any other deliverable report that you may have in your company that maybe you have to supply to a client through your finance group. This report for us has to be done before we can do our billing. So it's very important that we send it off, we get it approved so that we can finalize the invoicing for our USPTO client. We are still creating billings, but while we're creating those billings, we're going to run and post our indirect rates. We're going to reconcile our health insurance, meaning we're going to reconcile our bill to what we've taken out of payroll, because we've had some issues in the past with providers that weren't charging us correctly. And we're going to reconcile our project cost summary, also known as your JSR, to your income statement. And when I say reconcile the project cost summary to the income statement, I mean every large grouping on it. So we reconcile direct labor, sub-labor, materials, travel, sub-travel. If it's on the JSR, we roll it up and we reconcile it to our income statement to ensure that everything is posted properly and in its right account. Workday 4, we finish any outstanding customer billings, because as you know, there's always that one where you say, oh, look, we don't have our mod yet for our extra funding. So we're holding on that because we couldn't run it yet. We ensure everything is posted and processed in billing and revenue. We begin our balance sheet reconciliations. We do every balance sheet account gets a reconciliation every month before the end of the month. And then we go in and close the fiscal period, and we do it as one fell swoop. We don't piecemeal it. We literally go in, click them all until it's close it and roll it over. Workday 5, we assemble a draft of the financial statements for review by our controller and CFO. Our draft financial statements are approximately 200 pages in length. So the fact that we can get them done that quickly is kind of amazing. So things that we do look at during month-end review. We review an AP aging. We're looking for outstanding invoices from purchase orders or subcontracts that need to be accrued. We're verifying all expense and AP and expense report documents have a posted status. We look at our AR aging, any outstanding billings, any reconciling of payments to billings to ensure a proper AR balance. We look at our project actuals, tie out the billing to the project actual summary for all T&M billing contracts. We do a project cost summary. We reconcile it to the revenue and the cost both to the income statement. I run an income statement before we've ever calculated and posted rates, mainly because I want to check it to make sure it's on track to budget. And I literally look at it line by line, account by account, to ensure it's exactly where I thought it would be at this point in time. After the cost pool calculation, we run it again, and this time we're looking for any anomalies that may pop out at us. Just sometimes you never know. You can get that, you may post the payroll entry that comes over from Payroll Network, and it may somehow hit a wrong account, and let's say it doesn't hit accrued wages, it hits accrued AP. So now you're looking for anomalies in your statements after the fact. Your statement of indirect rates, I look at it every month, and I'm looking to make sure that all costs have been captured appropriately in a pool and or in a base. I also want to ensure that my calculated rates are on target with my budget, because when I did my budget month by month. I have a budgeted target rate. So I want to make sure that I'm on trend to capture those rates by the end of the year. So running rates for us was a huge deal. GCS, of course, everyone had to be out of the system. It took like an hour and 15 minutes. So literally, we had 7 divisions. We had 7 pools. Of course, you have to, in GCS, click each division, click each pool, and run them one at a time. In Uninet, I literally click the one button that says standard pools and tell it to calculate, and I'm done. And no one gets out of the system while I'm doing it. To us, it was a great improvement. Month-end reporting. We have a large month-end reporting package. Some people don't, some do. Our month-end reporting package in GCS literally had 7 sections in it because those were the 7 we could get out of the system. It has a total of 24 sections now that are distributed to our executive management team and board of directors. We worked with enterprise engineering to make the generation of the reports easier to give me one button push. That's because we had one report that we were doing by hand that married 4 different Uninet reports, and it took us about 3 days to do it. Now, with the help of enterprise engineering, we literally pull it all up, press the Uninet to Excel button, walk away from it for about 2.5 minutes, get a drink, chat with somebody, come back, and it's done. And it's in proper format. So over the last year, they have helped us bring up our project summary chart. And this is something that we run at actual rates. Our project managers and our project control personnel must review it each month, and they must give us notes on where did we fall short, what happens to be going on, are we understaffed, have we lost a person, is this not going to be renewed, whatever may be going on with that project. Our pipeline information, our whole pipeline is housed in Uninet. So we can actually bring the pipeline out now thanks to Michael Ribnick, and we can actually bring it into Excel. It will go through and do the full calculation based on PWin for the organization and tell me how much revenue I can expect in each year based on PWin by project. We were actually doing that by hand as well. Even though we could get the raw data out of Uninet, we didn't have it set up to where we could actually just do it in a one-button push environment. Our direct labor utilization report was our largest report. It shows everyone in the company, and it shows it based on how many hours, how much percentage of time were they directly billable, meaning it takes ever how many hours they actually recorded on their timesheet for the month and divides the number of billable hours by that number, gives me a percentage. We know that everyone needs to run at 90%, and it will then go through and show me what may or may not be in the proper place. One of the other reports we've done with them is an employee profitability report. So as you can tell, names, numbers, project names have all been changed to protect the innocent. It was designed with the support of Michael and his team, and we are able to show profitability by person based on their cost rate and fully loaded cost and bill rate for the month. So we can actually go in, give it the parameters and say, hey, we're looking for profitability between X and X. It'll highlight it for us. We know which people to be looking at, which maybe we're not making as much money on. But at that point, we can look at it and say, okay, do we know why we're not making as much money on this person as we originally intended to make? What's going on with them? Oh, were they given a promotion and we didn't promote them through labor category work with the client? That's something we need to go back and look at. Can we get a modification to bump them up a bill category? Our project summary report looks like this. The enterprise engineering team did a wonderful job with this for us as well. It used to be we literally had to go in with the JSRs each month, and we would put in the monthly revenue, the profit, and the year-to-date and the contract-to-date, and we did this directly from the JSRs. Now we press a button, it shows up for us, it knows its parameters that it needs to highlight, and so we are ready to go after that. Our direct utilization report, this was our bear. So basically, it shows you every project that they recorded time to, given a period. So you can make this be for January through whatever. We can run it for 1 month. We could run it for the whole year. We can see exactly which month we want to see. We can hide columns. We can play with it however we need to. But as you can tell, we have told it in our parameter, their billable percentage needs to be 90%. If it's not, it highlights it and turns it pink. So we can go back through and see, hey, why were they not at that number that month? Were they charging to overhead more than they should have? Were they out on FMLA? Did they have a lot of PTO that they used? What was the difference? So that we can go back through and look at that, and it'll help us for budgetary purposes for next year. Other reports that we include in our packet, of course, a balance sheet, an income statement, an unallowable cost breakdown, a full JSR, a project control panel that shows funding analysis. So where are you funded to? What is your contract value? The resource allocation based on an assigned work week at actuals. The people accrual summary that allows our PMs to track overextended PTO time because we allow our people to go at least 40 hours in the hole. This way they can track and see who they have that is 40 hours in the hole. And they need to tell them, hey, you can't take any more PTO time or you're going to have to take leave without pay. We do an AR aging, an AP aging. Some of the anomalies that we do. On a balance sheet, we like to be able to show a trend balance sheet. So since this button is not available yet in Uninet, we actually just copy it into Excel each month and then literally just keep it on a spreadsheet and then just pull it into our report. We actually also run this at a level 3 report, and I'm going to show you that in a minute. Our income statement. Our income statement was something we have had at IIA for a while. It's a net income statement. It was something that we were manually producing out of GCS. We are currently working with Michael and his team to automate that version for us, but it is the method in which our current executives like to see it. So we haven't tried to push on them a version of the Uninet income statement at this time. We're just going to bring that up in the future. So we run, as you can tell right here, roll up accounts to level 3, 1.1.1, 1.1.2. This is how we, and our newest executives prefer to see everything at a rolled up level 3. They don't like to see anything that has all of the accounts on it. That is the great thing about Uninet. You may have an executive who prefers to see every account, or an executive who even prefers to see it rolled up even further than this. You have that ability. So you can constantly be running it however somebody needs it. And of course, they can run it themselves, which makes it a great opportunity for you as well. Other things that we've been working with enterprise engineering on. We have a cyber division. It's a new division for us. So we're actually tracking it and including their BD time into a total JSR reporting situation for them. As a result, they've worked with us and developed a report that we can pull, and it will show it to us by project or totally rolled up so that we can see overall profitability, including any time that they're spending in conferences or just in general pipeline development. We are also working with enterprise engineering on getting a lot of our things that we put into our monthly packet, we use gas gauges on. And because we do a presentation in PowerPoint. So I'm working with Michael on seeing if we can't get all of those pulled into one file, have that whole one file feed from other items, and then it will automatically update so that all we'll have to do is bring those directly into PowerPoint, which will save us a ton of time. And if we have to make changes after the fact, we literally would be able to just update one file. So something we did in Uninet, because we have timesheet corrections. I mean, I think everybody has them. I think it's kind of the nature of the beast, especially if you're a service business. But our issue was that timesheet corrections were the bane of our existence. They were the bane of our existence in GCS. They are still to this day the bane of our existence in finance at IIA. Because in GCS, we allowed end users to make their own timesheet adjustments, except that nobody knew when they'd adjusted one. So if we didn't go back and catch it, then our costs wouldn't match our revenue. And it was a total problem. So our question, how do we track the needed corrections and have proper approvals before these corrections were made in payroll? So we said, all right, well, number one, we're going to cut them off. We went to Uninet, no more end user timesheet corrections. But now that means we've got to make them. So now how do we know that we need to make a timesheet correction and that it's been through the full approval process before we actually make it? Our answer, find a way to track it in Uninet. How did we do that? We set up a timesheet correction project and we used the project notes to do so. So essentially what we did is we set up a project in Uninet called the Timesheet Correction Project. There is absolutely nothing in this project except for project notes on timesheet corrections. So we wrote a whole procedure that went with it. Literally, it is the only people who put the project notes into this are our project control staff, because they should know exactly who needs the timesheet correction. What does it need to be corrected for? Are we looking at a labor rate change? Are we looking at a labor category change? Did they just screw up and not put enough hours on their timesheet? Or did they screw up and put too many hours on their timesheet? That's happened too. So you go in, you click your project note, you click your type of note you want, which for us is timesheet correction, and you go in and you fill it out. They leave it in an open and active status. They choose whoever needs to approve it, which is typically myself, and then it sends an email to me. I went in and added this section here for things like person name, project number, how many hours are we going to correct, what's the timesheet code you want it corrected to, things like that. And I did that all through the admin setup of project notes for the user-defined field. They then hit save. Once they've hit save, I get an email that looks much like this one right here and tells me a little about this timesheet correction, because I'm going to drill into this timesheet correction anyway, because I'm going to go right back into that project and into that project note, and I'm going to change it from an open status to an approved status. When I do that, it's going to generate an email to my payroll team. My payroll team now knows, hey, we can make this timesheet correction because I just got an approved email. So the fact of the matter is, it also keeps an auditable trail. So they can actually drill in and see, oh, who did approve that and what day did they approve that on? And then when they get done with it, they're actually going to go right back into that, change its status to closed. It's going to send out yet another email notifying everybody involved in that timesheet correction that that is closed. And now we can even go back in and see who closed it, as well as who started it, who approved it, and now who closed it. Another great thing you can do with this, you can write an ad hoc report, and it will show you the number of corrections per project during a time period. Why will it do that? Because one of the things that I put in our user-defined field is, what project does this person work on? So literally, we have our ad hoc report able to tell us, we're looking for project notes that have this in it, and how many did we do? And someone in payroll actually goes through and looks at that information every month, and we report that in our project financials section of our financial packet. So what can you do with Uninet? Really, the sky's the limit. You can be certain about your financial statements because everything is recorded. It's recorded in real time. You're not having to wait till 20 days after the month is done to even look at it. You can be assured that your reporting is correct and that somebody's not going to come back to you and say, well, hey, this number over here is one thing and this number over here is the other. And you can disseminate your information more timely, which means you get to be the happy employee at the desk instead of the very sad one with all the paper. And at that point, we have questions.